Sometimes I couldn't understand what they're saying. So there's some communication barrier, especially bus drivers. I don't know if they're local, but it seems to me they're foreigners, but they kind of drive recklessly.
Service, yes. I think sometimes they may not speak the most understandable English, but I should not generalize. Most of them integrate very well. So in fact, I think with them around, it may generate some competition and to raise the level of service in Singapore. And I think we need it, moving towards a service economy.
Yesterday when I went to the petrol kiosk at Shell, I don't know whether I should mention this or not, and then she was speaking in Mandarin, and then I was telling her my Mandarin isn't that good, although I try to communicate in Mandarin. And she just went on in Mandarin, and then later the supervisor had to come out of the room. So I really find that a problem.
Sometimes hard to get across to them, especially if they may understand us, but sometimes it's hard to understand what they're trying to say to us. So that in a way affects the perhaps waiting time to get our food, because we always have to speak to someone else or ask someone else to wait on us, and then it might affect us, because usually the first impression counts. And when
personally, I'm actually a food reviewer. Doing freelance, so I know that currently a lot of our food service providers are being done by outsourced to foreigners. So there is a general feel in even the blogosphere that the standards have dropped as well, because I think they do not really know the culture of in Singapore as yet. So probably they do not know what Singaporeans want.
Welcome back to Point Blank.
You've heard it and you've heard it many times over. Some Singaporeans are quite cross with the fact that a number of foreigners employed in the service sector do not speak English well or at all. Okay, so what are your experiences in, let's just start with, the retail sector, the more visible sectors of our of where these foreign workers are. Maybe with Eugene?
I think it's interesting, right? Because when you look at the clips, I wonder, if you pose this question to the foreign worker, right? His or her answer would be, I think you Singaporeans speak too fast. I'm new to the English language, and it'll take me a while to understand the accent and all. So I think again it calls for understanding on both sides, and I think here again there was this situation in which you would have employers, who could have done more, right, in terms of preparing the foreign worker, right, to take on to do his or her job.
Foreign workers in the retail industry, and I've had some good experiences with them, I've had some bad experiences with them, also with Singaporeans. So I don't think it really has to do with a particular, whether they're foreign workers or not. I think it has to do with the attitude and whether they're actually willing to help you out. There are people who have bad attitudes no matter what nationality you are.
Yeah, good point. Well, one of the things brought up by one of the locals on the streets is that they don't really know, they don't really know what Singaporeans want. But what do Singaporeans really want? What are we expecting of our service people? Are we expecting too much?
Right, you take any Singaporean, if the customer is rude and all, I think it'd be very hard, right, for the service provider to not be unfazed, right, by the whole episode. We expect people to treat us with basic decency.
I think you also have to ask, what are we willing to kind of pay for it? When I was on holiday in New York City, I got good service at every restaurant I went to, but I had to pay for the privilege. Tips are 15 to 20% over there. So if you had a $150 meal, you're talking about $16.50 to $30 tips minimum. And being a cheapskate, I think I'll take the service that we have right now and kind of just pay the minimal charge. But we have to take into account as well that the other person at the end of the transaction is human, and we kind of have to reward good service, with I don't know, gratuity or whatever it is. Or on the flip side, we could always vote with our wallets. If you go to a restaurant and the service is no good, just don't go back.
So what the government does not want is actually for companies on a wider scale, not just in kopitiams, to bring in cheap foreign labour. No, not that. But the government is saying the idea is to up the skills of existing local employees, in this sense, better productivity.
And besides feeling the heat in the housing and job market, Singaporeans are also facing another challenge. Apparently, Singapore has more women than men, and the gap has widened over the last 10 years. So is this another effect of immigration? We'll discuss more in the next clip.